Becky. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely. So, you are a car crash test engineer. Would you mind giving us just a brief overview of what your job involves?
So, I'm in charge of discovering new ways that we can improve vehicle safety for people in cars. And this involves looking at real world data to find out what the remaining problems are and figuring out if we can turn that into a new crash test or a new recommendation to improve vehicle safety.
That is really interesting and it sounds important. So, let's go back in time a little bit. Tell us about how you first learned about this profession.
So, as a kid, I was really interested in cars, which is kind of an unusual thing for a girl. And my parents fostered that. So, I would read car magazines and I'd learn all the facts and everything. And one day when I was 10 years old, my parents and I were watching the evening news, and the very first Insurance Institute for Highway Safety crash test came on TV. And the president of the organization announced, he'd come up to the cars after the test and say, this one was a good performer, this one, the dummy wouldn't have survived, and that kind of thing. And it clicked for me. I could do something where I could have a positive impact on people's lives, and I could do it working with cars. And then on top of it, I'm like, and I can destroy stuff for a living. Like, how cool is that?
That's awesome. So, talk to us about why is this important? What do the car crash tests results and everything that you and your team work on, what does that turn into and how does it help the society at large?
There's government regulations, and then there's consumer evaluation tests. So government regulations are very kind of basic standards, need to pass this to sell your car here. But these kind of tests go well beyond that. And so they give kind of, that carrot out in front of the manufacturer to say, here's something that can be done to improve people's lives, to improve vehicle safety. And it's very competitive. It's competitive without being a requirement, but there's awards that are involved. This company got 10 awards. Our company wants to get 11 awards. Those kinds of things that kind of prompt people to want to improve their vehicles to get to these new tests and new awards. And we're always coming up with new awards or new tests because there are still challenges left on the roadways. We know from numbers, there's still about 40,000 people every year that die on US roadways. So the question is, what can engineers do to reduce those numbers even further?
That's great. So, tell us what kind of credentials do you need to become this kind of engineer and work in this space?
Car crash testing has a lot of engineers that are either mechanical, civil engineering, industrial engineering, some of those more biomedical, biomechanics, which is a specialty that I actually have my master's degree in. And that's the study of human injury tolerances. So it kind of blends biomedical with mechanical. We also have a lot of just general science researchers, people that are into, psychology, looking at the human element of things, looking at how humans interact with cars, because there's always a driver, at least right now, in a car. And, crash scientists, medical scientists. I work with a lot of doctors actually who work in the emergency rooms and end up with, people that have been in a crash, come to them to get fixed and, to hopefully get better. And so it's a huge industry filled with a lot of very science, physics minded people, as well as a lot of medical people.
That's fascinating. So, as we're seeing the growth and maybe takeover of automated self-driving cars, what challenges does that bring up for you? Obviously, we're still going to be riding in them. So, how has that impacted your industry?
Well, it's going to open up a whole new area of research because a lot of these design concepts are no longer a person sitting in the car like this driving. It may be somebody sitting sideways or someone laying down and taking a nap while sitting in the car as it goes wherever. And that's what I'm looking forward to. I want a nap on my way to work. But
Definitely.
life goal. But it's going to come up with all new different kinds of challenging things that are going to challenge the test tools that we have, because we're used to having crash test dummies that sit in a certain way, that measure forces in a certain direction. We're going to have to understand, how can the vehicle safety systems like airbags and seat belts provide optimal protection in all these new ways that we've never thought of sitting in the car.
Wow.
And we also have a whole team of people at my company who work on avoiding crashes, which can also be fun because, well, sometimes you do still crash into things. No one gets hurt, but they have like balloon cars, and you can just hit the balloon car as you go by. But trying to understand from the robotics and the electronics and sensor side of things, how can we better improve roadway safety also?
All right. So I want to talk about being at home during the pandemic. So it sounds like most of your workplace is shut down. Is that right?
Yep, we have a limited team, but I have not been to work since March.
Okay. And we're recording this on October 2nd, right?
It's been a long time.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
But we're really here today because you're so smart and creative. You found a way to do a car crash test at home, and uh, I don't want to spoil it. So tell us about what you did with some Legos.
So as a kid, I mentioned that started being interested in car crash safety when I was 10. And I would build like a little crash wall with my Legos, and I would like run my Legos into this wall. It was rudimentary. It was nothing like what I've got today. But for my birthday in April, my best friend sent me a model of a Ferrari, a Lego model. And I was like, okay, this will keep me entertained. And it got me kind of thinking. And I was talking at a networking event about who I am, what I do. And I was kind of joking, you can't crash cars from home. Like, you're working from home, but you can't crash cars from home. And I was like, could I? And so I hatched this plan. I know that Lego has this opportunity where you can build a brick. You can buy individual bricks of whatever color and size you want and put it together. And so I came up with this whole plan of how many bricks I would need and everything to reconstruct basically a crash test facility out of Legos. And you get started, and then you start finding all these other really cool Lego pieces, and you start expanding it. And now you've got like the whole thing. So it took me about a month to get all the pieces to create this thing. It took me a couple days to put it together. And then my husband, I'll give him credit, he said, instead of just taking pictures, it'd be super cool is a stop motion video. And so I spent over a week, and I had to film it at night because the area that I'm in here gets a lot of sun, and you'd see it kind of flash on the stop motion if you didn't. So I'd film it as soon as the sun went down, start taking some pictures, doing some action photos. I think I have like 10 different views that I put together, and a lot of stuff doesn't make the final cut. Like, I know that, but I've got a really cool, like, 1.5 to 2 minute long stop motion that goes in incredible detail of the whole process. I mean, I've been a crash test coordinator for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I have seen a lot of crashes. I know this is how it goes start to finish, all the work that goes in prior to the test of a team of about 14 people that have to prep the vehicle, have to prep the dummies, like put it all together, the big red light to press to make the thing go, the countdown, and the glory of the whole crash.
Yeah. that button?
We have one technician that runs the crash machine who is the official button presser. And I've had a chance to sit up on the platform with him and watch the whole process as it goes down. So it's super cool.
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
was one of my favorite parts too from the video is the whole little crowd of people on the platform and they're watching is so great.
And everybody who's been to our facility, like all of my friends laugh because that part is so accurate. There's like 50 people up on this platform and then they all come spilling down onto the floor to see what happened,
Yeah,
to, see the aftermath of it all.
that's awesome. Okay, so when you are able to return to the lab, what are you most looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to the crash testing. Something about the actual test is just so fascinating. You think you know what's going to happen, but you never know. If you knew what was going to happen, you'd never even have to run the test. As a scientist, I think there's always something to be explored by every single test. And I'm used to 2 tests a week. And to go from that for the last 10 years of my life, every week at work, to now being at home all the time and watching it on a video, but it's not the same as
Right.
being there in person and getting to explore and really just see new things and get new ideas of projects.
Well, I think as a community, we have to thank you for your work. Thank you for making us safer. So I want to ask you, I'm sure you get this question a lot, but what happens to all those wrecked cars?
They go to a junkyard, and they're often pieces of them are taken apart for low speed crashes. So if you're in a fender bender, your insurance company might buy the headlight or the taillight or the trunk or that kind of thing. But we make sure that those cars never get back on the road, which is they've done, and some jobs can't be done again. So we don't want that car getting back on the road in a repaired state.
Absolutely. So my last question for you is just, do you have a message that you want to send to people about engineering as a profession? Maybe if there's somebody watching this who's thinking about a route like yours or similar.
First of all, find your passion and pursue it. Figure out how your own talents, how you would fit into the area of interest that you have. And there can be very different ways that you can pursue it. And if one direction doesn't work or doesn't seem like it's the right thing, there are others. Just keep looking. The thing that's really cool about engineering is that it's science, but with that human element. You're taking some knowledge, you're taking some discovery, and you're making it something that people can use, or is good for people or is applicable. The greatest invention really means nothing if you can't convey what it means to people. And that's something I always tell new engineers, is that even though we as engineers may be introverts at times, may not want to talk to people, you've got to tell people in a way that they can understand why this is important to them, why they'll want to care about it. And car safety is one of these areas where it's so obvious, but it's great to be able to tell people why you want that airbag, why you want to buy this car versus that car, because it means the difference between people living or not surviving a certain kind of crash.
Mhm.
And it's got that human element too, which is kind of fun. But never let anyone stop you from your dream and your passion. You will have so many people along the way that think that's weird, or why do you want to do that, or why would you want to pursue that? But if it's the thing that's in your heart, pursue that at all costs.
I love that. And I think it's a great lesson to um, choose to surround yourself with people who will be supportive.
Absolutely. And you'll always have someone who disagrees or doesn't think that's the right path for you, but they're not living your life. You
Exactly.
know,
Yep.
if I had said, "Oh yeah, I don't care about cars," or "Oh, that's a weird thing," I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't have worked on the really cool projects that I've done, irrespective of the Lego thing. But I wouldn't have done all of these cool, very fulfilling things that really get me excited to go to work every day. And I know that the things that I'm doing have an impact on people, and that was what was important to me.
Well, thank you, Becky. You've definitely had an impact on us. Thank you so much for making the Lego video and sharing it with the world. I really appreciate it and appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. It is right here.
Okay. So what
And
can
I'll come
you
around.
what can you tell us about this
And
building? And
what we have inside is a big crash hall where everyone watches the crash test. And we also have the control tower, which is where the big red button gets pressed. Um, and then the long runway where the vehicle would get up to speed in order to crash into the wall at the desired test speed. And next to it is our dummy lab where we calibrate our dummies. So dummies aren't dumb. They're really smart test devices that we have, and really expensive test tools that we use to figure out whether people would be injured in a real crash, while also not breaking after each crash. So they are anywhere from $150,000 to $1 million per dummy.
wow.
So they're
Who knew?
pretty epic. Yeah. Uh, who knew? Dummies aren't dumb. Uh, but yeah, so I tried to replicate many of the aspects of our facility. If you were to ever come visit or check our website out, ihs.org, you would see this facility. It's out in the middle of uh, the Blue Ridge Mountains in Virginia. And we've got this lovely, driveway that comes down to this front area, including the tree and everything. So people were really impressed with the level of detail that I put into some of these facts, including that we recently got some solar panels to help us power our crash test machine. Now runs off of solar panels.
Oh, I love it. This is so
Tons
great.
of cool
Thank you so
things.
much, Becky.
So yeah, anytime.